Today, we expect our digital communication to be entirely frictionless. We send gigabytes of high-definition video, endless voice notes, and seamless group chats. But 30 years ago, the internet was a place you actively dialed into through a wire in your wall. Mobile communication out in the real world was slow, rare, and heavily metered. Look at the interface we had to work with. To type the letter C, you had to press the number 2 3 separate times. Typing a full sentence was a physical workout. So how did the combination of that cumbersome plastic keypad, paired with a strict network limit of 160 characters per message, accidentally invent an entirely new dialect of human language? The language of the early internet was forged by strict, unavoidable technological and financial constraints. When the very first short message service, or SMS, was sent in 1992, it traveled over early 2G GSM networks. These digital networks had incredibly low bandwidth, which meant telecom companies had to impose tight restrictions on the size of the data being sent. Telecommunications companies placed an absolute cap on the payload, a maximum of 160 bytes, or 1,280 bits, per text message. The financial penalty was immediate. Type one single character over that 160-byte boundary, and you were forced to pay for an entirely second message. This severe bottleneck turned every single typed character into a literal financial asset. Your letters had to be budgeted strictly. Users responded to this billing structure by engineering a highly compressed communication system. They used Textese as a grassroots engineering solution to bypass the carrier's per-message billing. The first major compression hack was systematic vowel omission. By stripping out the vowels from a word like dictionary, users could pull a long sentence back into the safe 160-character box while leaving the consonants readable. Next came Rebus abbreviations. Syllables that sounded like numbers were swapped out, replacing longer phonetic sounds with a single digit. Finally, entire phrases were collapsed down to 3 letters, freeing up massive amounts of space. But heavily compressing the language created a secondary problem. It entirely stripped away the ability to convey human tone, emotion, or sarcasm. To solve this, users repurposed standard punctuation marks to draw faces, creating emoticons, and utilized all caps to simulate the paralinguistics of yelling. What looks like a corruption of standard grammar was actually a highly efficient optimization strategy forced by the hardware limitations of the 1990s. Eventually, the hardware caught up. Devices like this BlackBerry introduced full physical QWERTY keyboards, bringing an end to the physical friction of the 9-button pad. Then came the software revolution. The launch of modern touchscreen apps like WhatsApp in 2009 meant messages were routed directly over the internet, rather than through restrictive cellular carrier networks. By routing data through the internet, messaging became virtually free, completely eradicating the 160-character limit. By the early 2010s, technology had entirely solved both the physical space and the financial cost problems that originally necessitated those abbreviations. Which brings us to the modern paradox. Today, we possess unlimited data and infinite character space, yet we still use terms like LOL, OMG, and BRB. This happened because the language evolved into a social tool. By the mid-2000s, major brands like McDonald's and Unilever were using text-speak in commercials to signal they understood youth culture, while teenagers used the dialect as a secret code to identify their peers and establish group solidarity. The physical constraints of 1990s telecommunications are long obsolete, but the digital dialect they forced us to invent is now a core part of how we talk to each other every day.